Upgrades. Last episode, we had 2 new guests. They're actually full-time. I shouldn't call them guests. Now we're in a studio. We're cooking in a studio. We sound buttery smooth, guys. How do you like this new setup, everybody? Let's start with Dave, operating behind the soundboard.
Dude, I don't even know how to describe the feeling. It feels like we feel so professional right now, guys. I don't know how you guys are feeling about this, but I feel great. Aidan, you look like you are ready to start rolling right now.
I'm loving it. Big switch from Zoom last week. We got state-of-the-art technology here at our campus. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Aidan's right. Last week, we were joining the show via Zoom, sitting in our bedrooms. Today, we're in a studio like we're some legit podcasters here. Let's go, boys.
I mean, I would typically say, it's great to see all your guys' faces in real life, but we see each other every single day.
Basically live together.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know, how many hours have we spent together already today? We probably got in at 9.
Today alone?
Pushing 10. We're pushing 10.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and spend the next hour together. I think this will be the most fun hour of the day. We're going to talk a lot of hockey, a lot of the Stanley Cup Finals, but I actually want to start today's episode. I was going to say off the ice, but really it is stuff that happened on the ice just before puck drop of Game 1. Guys, the Stanley Cup was on the ice for the first time before a series clinching game, a cup clinching game. First time since the 1960s. What did you guys make of this change?
I mean, honestly, if I hadn't found out that stat from you, I wouldn't have known, because that's not something that I really think about. I never put 2 and 2 together. You know what I mean? I always just assumed that the cup. Well, obviously the cup comes out any game, series clinching game.
Anytime
right?
it can be won.
It's in the building, but I never realized that the NHL just doesn't bring it out at the start of the series. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't think I hate it though right now. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
I mean, I got chills, I think, when they brought it out, and it was something that you're just not used to seeing. You're always familiar seeing the cup at Game 7 or a deciding game, but bringing it out Game 1, it really added almost to the intensity of the start of the Stanley Cup Final. You always expect the teams to come out flying or hard hitting, but it almost ramped it up even more.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely unique. I don't think any other North American sport does it. And hockey's it's always known for being just sticking to tradition. For them to kind of break that mold, I liked it. And I also think it helps grow the game, with the American audience in particular, because, obviously, if you're a hockey fan, you probably know what the Stanley Cup is. But to see it and understand how meaningful it is to the players playing for it, I thought it was a great addition to this year's final.
I'm actually going to zag here. I feel like I don't agree with you guys. I'm not even a big tradition guy, but I do think part of the mystique of the Stanley Cup is that you only see it when it is on the line. And I know technically it is on the line starting with Game 1 of a series, but I almost feel like the less we see the cup, the better. It does kind of hold the mystique for me, but I totally get it too. This is definitely not a die on the hill kind of argument that I would have. But I do tend to lean to the tradition of how it's always been, at least since 1960. Okay, now off the ice. The start of the series began on both ESPN and Sportsnet here in Canada. I want to talk to you guys quickly just about the opening teases that we saw. I thought they were both really, really good. One was a little bit better. Where do you guys side? And if you want to just talk about what it is that you liked about either one of them.
I mean, I guess I could start off with this. So I didn't see the Sportsnet one live. I think we all got a message from Cristian about it where it was I don't know if it was just me or if it was to everybody, but it was just Phil Collins on the opening of Sportsnet's
That's my guy.
Stanley Cup final intro. And I was like, oh, are they cooking right now? Cristian's like, oh, they cooked, dude. And eventually when I got around to it, they did a really good job of it. We didn't find out, I don't think, until I think I showed you here.
You did.
About the ESPN intro.
Yeah.
Dude.
Give
is
the details
that one,
on that.
So ESPN decided to go a different route. They got Imelda Staunton, who is Professor Uxbridge
Yeah.
in the Harry Potter.
I'm a big Harry Potter guy, but I couldn't even told you the actress's name.
Yeah,
I'm just not. Yeah.
It
Anyways,
says it at the beginning. That's how I got her name.
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
And they basically, the whole intro was centered around is his name Bruce Pritchard?
Philip
Phil-
Pritchard.
Phil-
Phil
Pritchard.
Pritchard.
Yeah.
Phil Pritchard, the keeper of the cup, and he's collected every single set of gloves that he's worn holding the cup going back to, I think it's like the 90s to 94, maybe even earlier than that.
I did see a little baggie with the 1994 Rangers run listed on there. I would imagine that was probably around when it started.
That could be the earliest one that he's got in there, which is insane. And they would cut between shots of him lifting the cup and the teams that lift the cup. And they tied it in with, spoiler alert, they tied it in with the feeling of winning the cup. And everybody knows those iconic shots. Last season we saw it. Vegas, they stomped Florida in that final game. But, you hear 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from the crowd, and you see the
Building just explodes.
Yeah.
all the gloves, all the sticks just go flying up in the air. And so they kind of like tied the two together. And, man, was that just
It was
gave
a
me
thing of
chills.
beauty.
It really gave me
Yeah.
chills.
Hey, Doug, I know you watched the Sportsnet one like basically 5 minutes ago. So seeing it fresh, and then you said you watched the ESPN one. What was your reaction to those?
I've for teases, I'm a big music guy. I think
Yeah.
the music really gets you going. I thought the Phil Collins one was one of the best ones Sportsnet's ever done, in my opinion.
I agree.
Not just with the song, just with Ron McClain's voiceover. He's talking about how the players have been wanting this since a kid, and then they show B-roll or pictures of like McDavid as a kid, Kachuk as a kid, and then the iconic drum roll with the Phil Collins song, and then they cut to each specific hit of the drum. I thought it was perfect. I cannot wait to watch Game 3 now, and that was a Game 1 tease,
Yeah.
and that still got me hyped for Game 3, even though back then series was even. We had no idea what was going to happen. Now Florida's up 2-0, but I'm still just as hyped. I'm probably going to watch it again after we're done here.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like this was the Game 1 tease, and yet I think I've watched both of them multiple times now, which is it's pretty crazy. Just before we jump into the hockey, just one point I want to make about the ESPN one. I likened it to at least the slow mo parts, like with the gloves. Like it looks like this very unnatural motion. I was like, this looks like a freaking like National Geographic show or something. Like I'm watching like birds do like a
Especially in
weird
slow motion.
Yeah,
too,
it looked like a
right?
mating dance
Yeah.
or something. Like, I don't know. It was really cool though. It was both of them 10 out of 10. They both cooked. So just kudos to both of those broadcasts there. Thought they were really good.
For sure.
Okay, you alluded to it, A-Dog. It's a 2-0 series for the Panthers right now. Listen, in Game 1 we saw Florida go up or win the game 3-0. Bobrovsky with the shutout. He was definitely the story of that game. And then in Game 2, we kind of saw a bit of role reversal where the Panthers had dominated on the shots. Edmonton was up 1-0, and then we just see a bit of a collapse there. So through 2 games, what have you guys seen that you expected, or what have you seen that's been a surprise?
One thing that's really shocked me has been Edmonton's kind of lack of intensity at the start of games. I mean, Game 1 they come out firing, but it's like they don't keep it going for long stretches of time, and I think Florida has just been like a steady climb throughout each game. Like, yeah, they'll start a bit slow, but then they'll pick it up, especially last game. Like, it was 1-0, and then boom, they score 4 unanswered and win. So it's just surprised me, I guess, how well Florida's kind of contained McDavid and Draisaitl up to this point. But as far as the Panthers with like their physicality, that I expected, and I expected these teams to go back at it, back and forth. Another thing that's kind of I didn't really expect, but the amount of cheap shots that have been going on from the Oilers. They're obviously a physical team, but I think they're frustrated with how the first 2 games have gone, and they're just kind of taking it out on the Panthers, like obviously not legally. So those are the kind of couple things that have shocked me, like just like the lack of intensity through 60 minutes for the Oilers. But I expect that to change when they go home.
Yeah, Brando, you got any?
I mean, I agree with Aidan. The Florida, specifically their defensive structure, has been fantastic. They've really stuck to what they've been doing really all season. But for me, really, it comes down to Sergei Bobrovsky again. Like, even in the game one, Edmonton takes that 1-0 lead, and he just made incredible stops, specifically in that first period, to really shut down their best players and keep Florida in the game. Sorry, they didn't. It was in game 2 that they actually took the lead. It was not in game 1 because they obviously got shut out. And that is just another example of how well he's been playing. Specifically his puck location. The Oilers love to move the puck side to side, and we see all that movement and motion on the power play. And he's just been locating like nobody I've really seen in a long time. His ability to shut the door, like I said, specifically in that first period, but then again in the third period, just goes to show that he's incredibly locked in, and for me is a lock to win the Conn Smythe at this point.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you alluded to it. He shut out first game, allows one goal. It was one goal on one shot to start game 2, and then he proceeded to shut the door right after. Like, he put up a shutout apart from allowing that one goal within, I think it was 5 minutes left in the first period, where the Oilers ended up getting their first shot. After that, he was just absolutely electric. How many breakaway attempts has he stuffed already? Just on Ryan Nugent-Hopkins alone, I think it's like up to 3 or 4 now, which is ridiculous. This guy can't buy a goal.
I think game 1, Oilers had, I think it was in the first period, they had 3 breakaways or breakaway-esque chances alone in that first period. And
Nugent and Henrique with 2 for sure.
Yeah.
And he would not allow them to find any space.
Yeah. Granted, they were kind of going the same spot every single time. Maybe switch it up after like 1 or 2 times just where you
forehand, backhand, central every time.
It was,
and then Bobrovsky with his just rubber groin.
You know what that reminded me of? Me playing NHL.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I always hit the forehand, backhand, like trying to like. But I would never go low though. I'd always try to go up high. Like, you already got the goalie kind of biting. But I don't know. Like, what is it? Is he just like just in their heads? Is that what it is?
I don't think that's what it is. I think he's just kind of earned our respect around the league at this point. Like, you go up against Shesterkin, the guy who I'd say up until the end of that series, people would say he was the best goalie in this playoffs. So I don't know. I think he just deserves our respect. I don't know if it's really fluky or anything like that. Listen, in game 1, the deserve to win-o-meter was heavily in favor of the Oilers. But then in game 2, the Oilers generated 1 high danger chance across all situations. That's crazy. So like we saw them go from a high-powered offense in game 1. At least they were challenging Bobrovsky. And then in game 2, it just all went away. So I don't know. The other stat I wanted to bring up here, some Darnell Nurse stuff. We actually have 2 great Darnell Nurse stats here. Did you guys realize that Darnell Nurse is closing in on the record for lowest plus-minus in a postseason? He's at -15, and the record is -16 by Paul Reinhart in 1983. Shout out Big Head Hockey.
Shout out Reinhart.
Hopefully he doesn't dress tonight. Man, oh man, that record could easily be broken by the end of this evening. Right? Oh, I mean, I guess he'd have to finish the series with. I mean, listen, the series might only last another two games.
Coming up on the end here.
So, no, I mean, listen. I know out west especially. I don't think we made too much of it here in Toronto. Like, normally we like to clown on players. I guess we only clown on our own players when they play pretty bad.
Yeah,
right? Like,
us Leaf fans are too busy worrying about our own problems now.
Could you imagine if Justin Hall if the Leafs, God forbid, had ever made a deep playoff run, if Justin Hall was like a -16, there'd be riots in the streets every time.
He couldn't go outside.
Yeah. He'd have to keep his doors locked 24/7.
So you just see them after like game 4. He just stays on the ice. He doesn't leave. I'll see you guys tomorrow.
I'll be there. I'll be there when you see me in wherever, like the next in the away arena.
Just goes in the fetal position on the bench.
Yeah.
Well, and that's too if it was Justin Hall making 9+.
Oh my Lord.
I don't think he would last too long in Toronto at that point.
No. Okay. Other nurse stat here. I'm sorry, Darnell, but these stats are too good to ignore. This is from Evan Wayne. The Oilers have 50 goals against this playoffs. Darnell Nurse has been on the ice for 26 of them. We'll leave the Darnell Nurse conversation.
Tough look.
Yikes, pal.
Tough
There's
look.
still technically an opportunity for him to turn it around, right? Like if they
100%.
come back in the season, he plays plus ice time. it maybe doesn't look so
How
bad.
much can he turn it around?
I know, dude. You score a goal like on the way to a Stanley Cup
Absolutely.
win. Like it literally could be.
I guess that erases a
Yeah.
minus 15. Right?
One moment could literally erase the entire postseason up to that point.
If they come back and win, I think this will all just float.
Yeah,
further
I mean
away.
that's
Absolutely.
the Ainge. They always have to put him in a position where he can even redeem himself, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see if that happens. I think the other angle to this is Aidan brought it up off the top is the physicality. We saw Draisaitl with a hit on Barkov getting the elbow up there in the face. We also saw Warren Fogle with a knee on knee. Both of these are in game 2. There was a lot of chatter about whether Draisaitl should get suspended for this. He ends up just with a fine. There was even chatter of whether Barkov dresses or not in the next game. That might decide if he gets suspended. You guys have any takes on? Let's start with the dry on Barkov one because I think that one it took up a lot more oxygen in the room. Any thoughts on that play?
I mean, obviously, high hit. I think I'm okay with the fine. I think a suspension would have been a bit too excessive.
Yeah.
And if I'm not sure, has there been an announcement of Barkov? I'm pretty sure he's going tonight.
I think he is as well. I think I saw that. I saw him skating at that. It might have been from Frege earlier, but I mean, they reviewed it for a 5-minute. Like they reviewed it for a 5-minute major, right? They decided on it being only a 2-minute call. So now does a 2-minute call warrant supplemental discipline? I thought the supplemental discipline was the call, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're going to look at it for 5 minutes and then after you want to still give them supplemental discipline, oh yeah, I'm okay with it. But in the moment, they had to look at it. They decided it wasn't severe enough to warrant the major call, but they're still going to fine him. So and I'm not going to sit here and defend Draisaitl's actions because we shouldn't be, but I'm trying to just process I'm sitting here trying to process what the NHL is thinking here. Like, are we going to start finding people for miscellaneous trips during the season? Like that, they are equal, right? Like they are both 2-minute calls. What was he called for on the ice? Was it interference?
I believe it was roughing.
Yeah,
for
it's
roughing.
Minor for roughing, yeah.
Okay, so a minor for roughing for 2 minutes, right? And a minor for tripping for 2 minutes are the exact same thing in concept, but you're going to fine him. Was it $5,000? Was it the maximum under the CBA?
Sorry, I've never seen them do anything but the maximum. Like,
I don't think that they can do anything other than the maximum. What are they going to give them the minimum allowable under the CBA? What's that, $1?
I have never seen that phrase before. Yeah, it's like, he has been fined 1 cent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense.
I think for me, it really comes down to Barkov. I mean, we saw they reviewed it, but I think that's more of we need to call the 5 minutes so that we can review it. I don't think on the ice there was any real danger of Draisaitl getting the 5-minute major. But I think the NHL, looking at it after the fact, Barkov's uncertainty in terms of whether or not he'll play going forward in the series, I think that's what kind of gave them the sense of some sort of supplemental discipline, not to the point of a suspension, because for me it was not really much of an unnecessary play. Maybe it was a bit unnatural because of the way that Barkov had his head down and was kind of leaned into the glass that way. But it was not unnecessary force. I think Draisaitl came out and said later that he just kind of caught him in an unfortunate spot. So I wasn't surprised at the suspension, but I would have been, I wasn't surprised at the fine, but I would have been surprised if there was a suspension for that play for sure.
Brando, I think I agree with you on like the 5-minute major part where basically anytime now I see the refs come to the center of the ice and be like, we're reviewing the play. We're going to call it a 5-minute major on the ice and we're going to review it. I almost just take no stock in that. I don't be like, oh, that's a 5-minute major. And then be mad when they bring it down to a 2. It seems like they just call that 5-minute major just to give them the buffer of being able to get an extra look at it, which I think under the current system is a good strategy for the refs to undertake.
I think you're 100% right. That rule specifically, I think, is refs heaven. I think they love that. I
it's
think they
relatively
love
new as well, right?
Yes,
either
I
this
think
year or
last year I believe is when it came in.
Yeah.
But the refs have to love this rule because it gives them the opportunity to look again and not have to say right in that moment with only seeing seeing it live or seeing the play maybe up on the jumbotron and having to figure out what they should take from that. But it really gives them the opportunity to look and try to make the right play or the right call on the play. And I think it's been successful. I don't know the number of plays that have been reviewed where the 5-minute major was kept, but I would agree that it's probably pretty low just because it gives them that opportunity to look again and really make the right call.
Yeah. All right, so Florida leads here 2-0. Teams with a 2-0 lead in the Stanley Cup Finals are 49-5, 90.7% win percentage in this situation. So listen, it's looking bleak for the Oilers. Do they have a path back into this series, and if so, what does it look like?
I'd say yeah, for sure. I don't think the series is over. There's that classic saying, it's not a series until you lose on home ice. Obviously, the Panthers haven't done that, but the Oilers, they're coming back. Crazy environment in Edmonton. I think the crowd is going to be a huge factor in tonight's game. Honestly, I do have them winning tonight. Again, could be wrong. I think they just got to I think they just have to score early. I think if they can somehow squeak one past Bob early in the first, I think that gives them all the momentum throughout the rest of the game. But yeah, I think just get back home. Now, obviously, if they lose Game 3, I don't know how likely it is they come back. But yeah, just say just get back in front of home ice and get back in front of the crowd that's kind of propelled you guys this far.
Listen, I was also an Oilers believer. It was me and you who said Oilers in 7. These guys both had Panthers in 5. So far, looking good.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with you with the scoring early, even though that's what happened in Game 2 and it didn't go their way. But I'll tweak it and say score early and have it be from one of the stars. Like, I think you need a McDavid goal and him to give that, like, lion roar face to the bench. And that's going to get the team and the crowd going. It's gonna be going off the start, like you're saying. And I think unlike here in Toronto, they have a bit more resilience if they do get scored on to keep the energy high. But man, if McDavid scores early or Draisaitl scores early or a Bushbaum on the power play, the roof is gonna freaking explode. Okay, Florida boys, what are you saying? Come on.
I mean, listen, I don't disagree with either of you guys. Actually, I personally, yeah, what I said. I'm still sticking to.
No,
Panthers
you don't want to change your opinion?
No,
Come on to our side. Come on.
I'm still sticking to Panthers in 5, but they do have to lose a game in order to make that prophecy come true. And I think tonight actually might be that game. I think, like you said, the key to Edmonton having any sort of hope, like trying to avoid being swept. If they lose tonight, it's game over. I don't even think they're gonna get a game. But that all hinges on getting the crowd into it. When that Rogers Arena is rocking, man, that's a unstoppable force in there. And the best way to do that, I think, yeah, dude, Connor McDavid. Not to disparage Matthias Ekholm, who scored the only goals so far for the Oilers in this series.
He's a beast. He's a Viking.
He is not the type of star that we're talking about. He's a very, very good player, but
anytime he scores for you, it's gravy. It's not what you need from him.
Yeah. Dude, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, them two. I guess if you want to put Evan Bouchard in there, I guess we'll also throw in Zach Hyman as a superstar who scored 50 goals this year, even though I
forget he exists. Yeah. I've erased him from my memory.
think all of us in here probably hate to admit that he scored 50 goals this year. But, they definitely need to come out on top. And you know what? I think they understand that they need to be the first team on the ice today, right? Tonight.
Yeah.
They need a bounce too. Like, they need some help. Like, not necessarily that they've been thoroughly outplayed through both games, but they need something to get their confidence going again. If they come out and score the first goal of the game, that's fantastic. But it feels like they almost need a bounce to make it like a 2-0 game, or to put them in a position where they can really feel that confidence and continue to grow on it. One game, obviously, they can come out and win any of these games. But realistically, like, it's going to take more than just one game to really get them back into the series. And that's why, for me, it's Florida all day. I could totally see them winning tonight and ending the series on Saturday.
Yeah.
One key for Florida is to, try to maybe score on the power play. I mean,
I mean, listen, it's tough it's been tough for every team that's come against them in this postseason. Their streak was ended at 35. Was it 35 straight kills now? Florida's third goal of the game, right, came on that power play. Listen, I don't even think that's a slight on Florida. Like, no other team was doing it. We all thought maybe like the Stars could, they couldn't. The Canucks definitely could not either. Like they were just putting pucks into traffic. Like they were getting shots blocked at the blue line, basically, right? Yeah. But you're right though. You're right. Like if Florida is able to find especially with the way that I've been very surprised with the way that they've been calling penalties so far. Like they've been calling penalties for that matter. Like that's probably the biggest surprise for me. If Florida gets another 3 to 4 chances tonight on the power play and they can't bury one, that could be a worrying sign potentially for the Panthers. Maybe that's something to look out for.
Yeah, I just bring it up to say, hey, that's the one thing the Oilers can hang their hat on.
Yeah,
probably the best aspect of their game through the playoffs.
I think my closing thoughts for the finals as of right now is I'm trying to figure out what led me to believe the Oilers could do this in 7. What the hell was it? Because listen, I was confident on the Florida side of things. Like I had them as my Eastern Conference pick in December. I had Dallas as my pick in December on the West. And then you see the Oilers beat the Stars. And I guess my thought process was, well, they just beat my cup pick. They must be better than my cup pick. When really, I should have stuck with my gut. I believed in the Panthers. I thought they would get that far. And yeah, I don't know. I think honestly what did it for me with the Oilers is those numbers that you guys are talking about, those gaudy, like record-setting numbers. When you see a team putting those up in a postseason, you kind of do fall into like the team of destiny concept, right? Anyone else closing thoughts, Stanley Cup, before we move on?
Oilers and Panthers in 5, baby. That's it.
Oilers are not dead.
One thing I will say about the playoffs, especially in the NHL, is it is heavily matchup based. I know it's, typically the best player or the best teams make it to the finals. There's few years where you can say that a team that didn't deserve to be there ended up there. But even in the Stanley Cup Finals, you're facing a team that you've maybe played once or twice that year in general. So I think it really does come down to just how you match up with them. And Florida matches up pretty well against everybody. So that's why I think nobody would have questioned your idea to have them in the finals early as you did, Cristian.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to conversations happening at the draft combine. I didn't even check. I'm pretty sure it's still in Buffalo. I feel like they do it every single year. The same spot in Buffalo, which I guess they can do because there's not usually playoff hockey around this time there. So it's really convenient. Sorry,
congrats,
Buffalo.
I'm sorry. You got one thing going for you.
Yeah. Shout out to the
combine.
Home of the combine. All right, this is from Anthony Martino on Twitter. Prospect Sacha Boisvert. He had an interview with the Montreal Canadiens, and this is what he had to say about his interview with the team at the combine. More intense than many others. At one point, the psychologist sat down on the edge of his seat to challenge my gaze. I did the same. He understood he wasn't going to get to me. What the hell? I don't know if I have anything else to say other than what the hell.
Draft that guy. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Yeah, right. So listen,
that guy's a dog.
Based off of that, we talked about this on the subway this morning when me and Dave came in. We're like, okay, listen, does that mean the fact that he challenged the gays, does that make him a leader or a follower? I'm like, no, if he challenges, you want that guy. That is the response you actually want.
That's the guy that's stepping up to the plate, it sounds like. Yeah.
Definitely a leader.
So shout out to the Montreal Canadiens psychologist, I guess. I don't know. Honestly, I think between the two that I've brought up here, this one's a little bit weirder. This is from Mark Scheig on Twitter. Prospects won't say who, but a team has asked what a prospect's Snapchat score is and what their Uber rating was. And then later we got confirmation. I think it was from Arpon Basu. He says it was Utah who's asking draft prospects that question. So those two questions: Snapchat score, Uber rating. Take either one. What are we saying about this?
Great start to the Utah era. that'll really attract players there.
I'll be honest. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I don't hate that. Like that. Yeah. That honestly, I think the Uber ratings in itself, that is so telling about somebody. I'd like to go on record and say I have a 4.9 something rating on my Uber app.
So
would you guys agree I'm a pretty good person?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, you could say that.
So,
sources say.
Listen, we know what types of people hockey players can be sometimes, especially. Well, listen, here's another thing too. They're in a dry state as well, so taking Ubers to
And you're not talking about the weather there.
Yeah, I'm definitely
Yeah.
not talking about the weather.
Yeah.
They're in a dry liquor state. So that's why automatically my mind went right to these guys coming back from a bar. We saw it a few years ago. If you guys remember, the Ottawa Senators had their tape, their conversation leaked in an Uber because they were being so distasteful to the Uber driver, right? They were just being so disrespectful that he decided to get them back. He realized what was going on. He recorded them, and did he not get somebody fired? Did they not fire somebody out because of this, or what? I forget what the entire story was. Somebody got traded though.
Yeah.
I do believe it was
traded.
a number of players were in
Yeah.
an Uber or taxi situation when
Yeah.
there was a camera on, and I believe it caused quite. I think it was more than one player had an exodus from Ottawa because of that issue.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I don't think this is like the be all end all reflection of who you are as a human being, but most people, like, you should act civilized around, like, if you're in an Uber, if you're in a taxi, whatever, like, if you're acting like an animal, do we want you on the team? Like, are you going to be a liability for me or for the team going in, like, down along the line in the future? Like,
The one thing about this that I wondered though is, I don't know if this is. It doesn't sound like this is a Mike Babcock situation where he's like, "Let me see your phone." These guys could just, if they're asking them, they could just be lying, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I've got a 2.0 Uber rating. I'm probably going to say, you know,
see, I don't know. Like,
do
you think that they're
I find it hard to believe they would get into that room and say,
Pull out your phone?
show me your Snapchat score, show me your Uber rating. If I was a player who had a high Uber rating or a low Snapchat score, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Here's my example of how dedicated I am to hockey or how well I treat service workers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I think it was a clever idea to ask. I just wonder how it went in the room. I'd love to be a fly on the wall at that point.
That could definitely be doctored.
We did definitely have one player who was asked this question. Artyom Levshinov, he's a draft-eligible guy from Michigan State. He's going to go really high in the draft, defenseman. He said when they asked him this question, he's like, I don't have Uber because I just bike around campus. So,
Okay.
hey, look, he had it out there,
Love
right?
it.
Genius answer.
Being
Yeah.
green.
On the topic of Utah, honestly, this wasn't planned, but during the podcast, Utah Hockey Club announced their logo, their placeholder logo, word mark, and color scheme, and even their jerseys. And I'm gonna read the official colors here. We got rock black, which is just black, salt white, it's just white, mountain blue. Yeah, it's a light blue. It's a light blue. My first thing that comes to mind when I looked at these, I don't even know if you guys haven't seen them yet, but they honestly remind me of PWHL Toronto. Is basically what they look like, except they went black primary and the light blue as a secondary. I think one thing that's interesting here is they went different striping on the away and the home jersey. Honestly, I don't really have too much to add on that. Do you guys have anything here?
I don't hate them. I think to start, it's not bad. Obviously, the name's pretty bland for 1 year. But color scheme, I like it.
Yeah, I'm just having my first look right now.
They're pretty. They're jerseys.
They're very run of the mill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe after a full season, maybe with some winning in those colors, maybe they'll ingratiate themselves into the league. But yeah, right now, I honestly I'm in the middle about it.
The black jersey I'm looking at as well, Dave. The black jersey to me screams like that San Jose Sharks third jersey-esque black color scheme.
So does the away jersey. Like that away jersey does look like a
Fair
San
enough.
Jose
Yeah, the
Sharks.
color scheme for me is almost too close. That light blue
Why?
could easily be teal.
Why did they not go with purple?
I mean,
They have a team in the city that's already gone with purple.
So here's the thing: is this a placeholder so that they can still work on their official color scheme?
Dude, if they're
right?
going with rock black and salt white,
I think this is it.
Yeah, I pray no.
I
will
hope
say
not.
based on this color scheme, Like, there's no way. I don't know. Like, this does not scream Utah Outlaws. Like, in terms
No.
of the name
Yeah.
choices, this screams.
Does it scream Yetis though?
That's,
Yes.
that's exactly what it screams.
Definitely.
Which I will take as a positive because I am Team Yeti. Like, give me the Utah Yeti. I think that is the way to go. Maybe
Yeah.
after this conversation, maybe we realize it should be the Utah Ubers. Maybe that's what they go with. I don't know.
The Utah Snapchat scores.
Yeah, the Utah Ghosts. Yeah. Okay, let's move on here. Earlier this week, honestly, I think it was a week to this point. We had Amazon drop a trailer for their new series that's going to come out in the fall, produced by the same team as Drive to Survive, and I think Full Swing as well. And we got the names for who's going to be featured in this kind of behind-the-scenes look at 12 players in the NHL. So we got Connor McDavid, Matthew Tkachuk, Jacob Trouba, Leon Draisaitl, David Pasternak, Jeremy Swayman, he's the only goalie, Quinn Hughes, Jack Eichel, William Nylander, Philip Forsberg, and Gabe Landeskog. If you guys watched the trailer, have any thoughts on that there, let's hear them. And if not, who's the one player out of this bunch that you're most excited and curious to get a behind-the-scenes look of?
I love the trailer. I'm a sucker for these behind the scenes docu-series. Obviously, NFL had one with quarterback. They have another one with wide receivers coming out later
They
this
could
summer.
work on the names. I will tell them that.
Yeah, quarterback,
Receiver.
receiver,
Is this one just go hockey players? Like, yeah.
left winger. Like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Centers.
Trailer got me hyped. Trailer was so good. I'm mad. I have to wait till the fall to watch this thing. I have 3 players I'm excited to watch.
Okay. Give us the podium here.
So first one, as a Leafs fan, I'd say Willie, obviously.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of mysterious. Like we know about him, but like we don't really know.
We
about
don't know
his-
too
we
much
don't know
about
too much
Prosciutto
him.
boy.
Yeah.
Prosciutto man over
Yeah,
there.
we don't know too much about Willie Styles. And the fact that the series is going to be following the teams through the playoffs is great and also heartbreaking. As a Leafs fan, you're going to have to relive the Game 7 loss to Boston. And then another bonus about them following the whole season is we get McDavid and Tkachuk, who are in the final. I'm just dying to see the behind-the-scenes footage of them in the Cup Final series. One thing, I kind of think there's a bit too many players. I think you could have cut the list down a bit just to get more in-depth
Yeah,
with...
get rid of the Boston guys.
Yeah, like...
Do we need 2? Come on. Only
Yeah.
only team with 2?
I will say, as triggering as it will be to watch those Bruins, I think the Swayman angle should be interesting, especially this year, coming up, kind of taking that number 1 spot, the way he played in the playoffs against the Leafs. I think that angle, the only goalie, so we're going to see some different personality
For sure.
there. You know, goalies are weird people. I want to see what makes Swayman a weird guy. Right?
Scale of 1 to 10. What do you guys think? How weird is Jeremy Swayman? I'm gonna put an early guess here. I'm gonna say he's at a 7 on the weirdness scale. I don't know. We'll get that confirmation in the fall. So stick back with us until the fall if you're watching on video. Yeah, I'm gonna put it at a 7 there. I think he's weird. I think he's not too weird, but he's definitely got a kook about him.
I go 7 or 8. Yeah.
First off, it's always relative to goalies because all goalies are weird,
yeah,
right? That's the cushion.
7 on the goalie scale.
Yeah.
Maybe a 6 on the goalie
Honestly,
scale.
I'm going like a 4. Like I think as far as goalies go, he so far strikes me as the one with like the most normal personality. You can tell he's got human emotions. He's not an alien. So I don't know. I hope we get kind of the typical goalie personality out of him. But yeah, I do think I'm almost curious, morbidly curious to hear about the Leafs side of things from the Boston point of view, right? Yeah. If I had to pick one name,
Look
though.
at these losers.
Yeah,
We got him
right?
again.
Oh,
These
man.
babies.
Yeah, I mean, we already did the torture of like the original Amazon series, like all for nothing, right? That's what it was
Yeah,
called,
that was-
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sums it up.
Definitely not all or nothing. It was all for nothing. Anyways, if I'm gonna pick one player, I'm going with the stash man. I'm going with Philip Forsberg. I feel like we're gonna get a behind the scenes look of this guy getting like the groom on. Like he's gonna go to the barber shop and we're gonna get the whole shebang behind the scenes there. I don't know. I think like in Nashville, I don't know. You guys have learned that I'm apparently very partial to the Nashville Predators
You
this
are.
year. Shout out to Tommy Novak.
Big Preds.
Shout out
guy.
to
Shout out
me.
to the Preds.
Shout out to
Big
me
Preds.
last year thinking they were going to win the President's Trophy. Jesus Christ. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I do think I've always been a big Philip Forsberg guy. There was that one year, I think it was the bubble year, where we were praying to God that this guy was going to get to the trade deadline unsigned because there was rumors that a lot of teams would be interested in him, Leafs included. He obviously signed an extension, but just in the national market, I think he gets buried on a national scale. He's up there in terms of like best goal scorers in the game. His big thing has just been like kind of staying healthy. Speaking of staying healthy, does anyone want to take? I saw you point at the screen there, Brando. Give me it.
No, I was going to say the name Gabriel Landeskog on this list kind of makes me curious. We all know he hasn't played this year, let alone last year.
It's been 2 years.
What has his year looked like? How has he been around the team? What are they going to focus on? That's what really has made me
for sure.
interested in that.
Rehabilitation. I'll tell you, there's only one player on this list I don't want to see, and you guys are gonna maybe grill me for this, but why is Connor McDavid? Obviously, we're gonna want Connor McDavid on here, but I'm not excited to watch a series. They should put the least amount of Connor McDavid in the show because he is just so boring. Oh my God, we're gonna watch Connor McDavid walking up his heated driveway. That was the big thing. They've been trying to force that guy in the Edmonton media for the past 8 years. The guy is as dry as the desert itself. Like,
McDavid to Utah confirmed.
Great hockey player. I don't think I could deny he's a much better hockey player than me. Let me put that as a disclaimer.
That's a hot take. Wow.
But man, give him some personality, everybody. Like hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully he's actually like gonna open up a little bit more in this series. But from everything I've seen so far on Connor McDavid, man, the guy is like a skeleton basically.
I agree with you. I think that is part of the intrigue, just because he's a superstar and he's so guarded off the ice. It's the same thing with like a guy like Crosby. Yeah. Like I would love to see a behind the scenes series.
But I've seen like Crosby like laugh before. I don't think I've ever seen Connor McDavid laugh once in my life.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to get back to Landeskog, but let's talk about this other name first. Jacob Trouba. Like, he might be the most polarizing name on this list. Does this piece, wherever we get out of it, does this further sewer his public perception, or is this going to be kind of a piece that allows him to rehabilitate his image? That's what I'm going to be curious about. Obviously, we don't know the answer. We'll have to see what the hell they come up with here. But I'll be very curious to see what we get out of Jacob Trouba in this series, because I think it can sway a lot of people's opinions for him one way or another. On the Gabe Landeskog thing, I almost feel like he's just going to be the token injured dude here for like casual hockey fans or people that are getting into hockey through this series to be like, hey, hockey players are tough. This is how tough they are. This dude hasn't played hockey for 2 years, and they won the cup. Like, that's what he had to do to win the cup. I feel like that's what's going to end up happening with Gabe. I hope we get something more. I hope we get some really good introspection there.
I hope we get, like, at least some kind of clips of him trying to work his way back, because that's been the whole thing is, like, they've been leaving the door open to, like, hey, maybe this guy isn't retired or isn't going to retire. I would love to see some of the recovery and hopefully get an idea of where he's at in his life and his career.
Yeah, maybe one more year, man.
Yeah.
Like I think that's what all Avs fans are hoping for. Just one more season with their captain. It's been a tough couple of years. He does have a cup though, so that's actually the last game that he's played of NHL hockey was that cup win in 2022. 2 full seasons since then. I don't know. I think you're probably right. That is probably going to be the angle that they're going to lean on for Gabe. Does that angle come through? I don't know. I really don't know. Have they even said? I know that they were going to speak to the media recently. Did they say anything about what's going to happen next year?
They had that presser. It was very, very. It was like almost immediately after they were eliminated. Probably like around like locker room cleanout day. I don't really think we got any more concrete answers than we already had before. Like it was a lot of just like we'll see.
Okay.
Right. Like stuff like that. Okay. This also broke today. I do think it's worthy to talk about. Former Leaf, Alex Steen, definitely like more renowned as a Blue. I mean, he won a Stanley Cup with them, the franchise's only Stanley Cup. He's gonna be taking over as GM, except not right away. It's going to be in 2 years from now. He's going to be special assistant to current GM Doug Armstrong for the next 2 years. Then he's going to take over as GM, and Doug Armstrong's going to just be the president of hockey ops through 2029.
That is until Doug Armstrong ultimately leaves for a rival, and Thing follows him along, just like some other people that we know.
Yeah, I know. I kind of. I don't know. Have you ever seen this before? Like where a GM is announced Forget 1 year in advance, 2 years in advance in any sport. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen this before.
Is that actually what they announced, though?
Yeah.
That he's
Yeah,
gonna
like,
eventually become the GM?
Yes. Like, they literally said,
Does
we're
he-
here to tell you that Alex Steen is the new GM in 2 years. That's what they did.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, it was this morning.
That is so bizarre.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely,
Hey,
definitely
Dougie,
unique.
you're on
the
a tight clock here, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
better get everything prepared for
You got 2 years.
Steiner when he comes
You got
back.
2 years, pal, or hit the road.
What if they fire him before the 2 years?
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe he's
Does he get fast tracked? What's going on?
maybe he approached the team and was like, "Hey, I'm thinking of stepping away," and then
Well,
this
maybe,
is like
yeah.
a
they
good
just
succession
put
plan.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. He's thinking about stepping away 5 years in advance, right? Because he's going to stay on as president of hockey ops until 2029. It's just weird.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we're missing part of the equation here. Like, there's probably some quotes from the press earlier today that make a lot more sense. But I'm just really struggling to come up with like an example. in sports.
Only thing I can kind of draw some connection to. Obviously, it happened same off season was Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics. How
Yeah.
he went from coach
Oh.
all the way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one example I can think of. But obviously, it was right then and there.
I also think you don't hear necessarily these plans in advance as much, but I think teams are constantly looking at this, especially like above the GM now, where we've got so many additional roles in terms of presidents of hockey ops, and they're working, I'm sure, with the owner to try to come up with these long-term plans. Look at Nashville, and you have somebody like David Poyle in a role for so long. There's no way they didn't kind of workshop an idea where I think it was Barry Trotz comes in afterwards and kind of takes over. Someone they're familiar with, somebody who knows the operation, somebody who, can be groomed into that position because he hadn't been a GM before, I don't believe. So I love this move for Steen.
Yeah, I mean, good for him, obviously, but does he, I don't know, does he have the tools? I guess this is going to be the 2-year trial run, right?
Yeah.
I guess they must have some sort of confidence in him to announce this right now and be also, going to go through with it, right?
Yeah.
They announced that they're going to have to do it unless something crazy happens,
It
right?
does feel like a lot of unnecessary pressure, right?
Yeah.
And it's one thing to put unnecessary pressure on a veteran GM, but it's a guy who's never done it. He has been in the org in management before this announcement. I think it was a European scout.
Yeah.
So he does have that under his belt. Did Steen ever strike you guys as a GM or even a management type? And
No.
I'll give you an example of players who also didn't strike me as one. It's even Spezza. We got an up close look at him. I could have seen him in coaching. I did not see him in management.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think with Steen, he struck me as more of a quieter guy. I didn't see that. I didn't foresee that for him.
Again, you brought this up before, all the pressure. Why couldn't you just keep this internal? This couldn't have been an email sent to the rest of the
But I will say
employees
that I
around?
think it does almost not. I think it softens the pressure that may come if they had decided now to
In 2
hire
years?
Steen in 2 years and then to just to
Maybe.
throw him into the fire and say, hey, everybody, here's a guy who has no experience. At least now we can look back and say, hey, 2 years ago they were planning to do this and they've probably given him
Yeah.
some sort of runway into taking the job in 2026.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely positives to just certainty, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you guys another name here that's in a front office. You guys remember Derek Dorsett? He's a Vancouver Canuck.
Oh yeah.
Blue Jacket. Yeah, he was a rat on
Tough
the
guy.
Canucks.
Yeah.
This guy is in the Blue Jackets front office. That's talk about a guy I would have never thought as a front office type. He's one of them there. Okay, we're gonna move on.
I had to pull up a picture of his face because I wouldn't be able to tell you what this guy looked like.
But tell me now. Now you're like, oh, that guy, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
thank God the guy's in Columbus. That's all I can say.
You got a face for Columbus.
He does have a face for
Oh, yeah.
Columbus. I'll tell you that for sure.
Shout out Ohio.
Not even his mom.
All right. Guys, we gotta get very serious here. We've lost a large member of the hockey community here. Rest in peace to CapFriendly. I am distraught over this one, guys. I am distraught. You guys,
You've been distraught all week.
yeah, these guys know I've been on CapFriendly probably every single day that I've been at the school, which has been 6 months, and obviously years before then I'd use that almost daily. You tell me in undergrad when I was in kin classes, learning about ankle bones. No, I was on CapFriendly. learning on the bones of the of the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's what I was doing.
Yeah. To any of the profs that are here at the school, and if they do end up watching our podcast, Cristian was never on
No.
CapFriendly before.
CapFriendly is
in your
actually an
class.
Italian word for homework.
Only on breaks.
Only
Yeah.
on break.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
only
yeah.
for the 20 minutes we
Yeah.
have.
Okay, just to give a bit more detail on what exactly happened here, CapFriendly is going to be leaving the public space early in July after free agency gets underway because the Washington Capitals, damn you, Brian, it's all your fault. They bought CapFriendly, so they're going Caps Friendly, and it's going to be taken off the public space. It's going private. I don't know. There's no alternative for this, guys. Like, there's PuckPedia.
Well, there is an alternative.
There is PuckPedia.
But they're not
and listen,
great.
listen. They've been around for a while. They're probably great at something, but we have not dug in enough to know what they're great at. I'm praying, hoping someone can fill the hole that CapFriendly will.
I remember when I first started going on CapFriendly and just not knowing anything about the site, and then starting to learn it. That's probably like going to be the coolest thing, right? Like, this is kind of PuckPedia at the ground floor. Like, I don't know. Is this really like a situation of what did you prefer? It's like, are we gonna see hipsters saying, I've been using PuckPedia for the past 6 years, and I think it's a superior. Like, no, shut up. You've been using CapFriendly since, like, everybody else. Like, everybody in the front offices at the NHL, like in the NHL, we're using CapFriendly too. You weren't using PuckPedia before, so now. The thing is that we're going to have to kind of relearn what we already know, basically. That's probably going to be the most intriguing thing. Maybe it's not even PuckPedia. Like, shout out to PuckPedia. They're probably doing great. Maybe it's something else. Maybe in a month, just in time for free agency, somebody else goes live with something.
I honestly think that's the most realistic outcome. And maybe it's just what I'm hoping for, but I do think that's what's going to happen. Whether it is PuckPedia who brings in other people or like somebody else steps up to the plate, competition is good in that sense. And really, when I think about it, this is actually not the first time that we've lost like the Cap site. I don't know if you guys remember, because I barely used it, but I remember Cap Geek. That was a site, and I'm pretty sure the owner he passed away. Like so we lost that site and no one uptook it. So like, listen, someone's gonna replace CapFriendly. It will happen.
On the flip side, great move by the Caps.
Yes.
Bringing
Objectively,
in,
you're right.
Huge
bringing in
move.
those three guys. I think you sent this to us, something about Friedman saying like teams are kind of scrambling now. Like, what do we do? Like, were they relying on the site?
Almost definitely, like those smaller markets, 100%. I'll give you the flip side of the flip side. I almost look at it with the Caps where I'm like, you didn't have something like this already internally? Like, come on, Caps. Come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm probably being hard.
Unless
there.
it's just the having it for the exclusivity, like buying it to weaken other teams.
The opportunity cost, taken away from other teams.
Yeah.
And
they also signed on all three of the guys that are running the site. Like, those are three
Kudos to them,
brilliant
man.
hockey minds as well. Like, you're
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's
That's a great move to help strengthen your front office.
Yeah, it wasn't just about the program or the software. It was about
it's probably a part of it,
of course, but it was also about bringing in the minds who came up with it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
because it doesn't just end with the site. There, I'm sure we'll be coming up with more concepts, and as the technology always grows, more opportunities come with it.
That is a great point. And so once again, always goes back to the Leafs. I've seen people saying, why didn't Toronto do this? Why are they not? We got all the money in the world. Why didn't you buy them? I guarantee you Toronto already has something like this.
I am under the understanding
Yeah.
that they do have a similar style, probably larger department that handles a lot of the similar cap crunching things that CapFriendly did, kind of.
Yeah, and his name was Kyle Dubas.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's going like spinning on a hamster wheel.
Welcome to Kyle Friendly. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. He just puts the two phones to his head and closes his eyes like, I will tell you every. Yeah.
And it's just numbers
Spits
just
out
appear on the screen.
5 through what? Yeah, that's exactly.
we need to sign Mitch Marner to 11-6.
Yeah. Just on a salary cap note, the NHL this week, they also announced what our salary cap ceiling is, or they confirmed it. Like, I think we had a very good idea of what this is. It's $88 million flat. I remember when they first gave us an estimate, it would have been just me and Dave at the time. And they came out and they're like, listen, it's going to be 87.5. Everyone's like, oh, that sounds really good. And I think we had a discussion. It's like, do you think they're lowballing here so that when they announce the real thing, we're like, wow, they exceeded our expectations? I think that's kind of what happened here. It's not a big deal, but think it was a little sneaky play there by the NHL.
You're probably right, yeah.
If we don't get a cap-friendly alternative for a little bit, it's going to be weird to just, like, have, like, salary cap ceiling and floor numbers, but somehow not have, like, certain contract numbers or whatever. Because the NHL stance on this, like, Gary Bettman's been on the record saying he doesn't think that the public should be, like, privy to contract details and stuff like that. So
what a dick.
Yeah, it's scary, Bettman.
They're probably pretty happy then that the sale kind of went through. It kind of takes the technology out of the public's hands, at least, even though the technology will be there. It's just it will make it a little bit more difficult for maybe not the media, because they'll have probably tools to handle that as well, but at least for the general public to go back and say, hey, I have as much detail as some of the NHL teams do. I think the NHL would prefer not for that to be the scenario.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Okay, we're going to switch from the NHL to the ECHL here. Guys, the Florida Everblades. First off, they got sick jerseys, sick logo. As you could guess, they're the Florida Panthers affiliate in the ECHL. They just completed a three-peat. And they actually beat Seattle's affiliate there in the final. Kansas City, I forget what their name is, but they three-peated. And I did just mention, I'm like, yeah, they're the Florida affiliate. There was just an announcement today. There was a statement put out by the president of the Florida Everblades saying that the Panthers are done being their affiliate. Like, could you imagine having a farm team three-peat and they cut ties with them? The day, I think, not the day, like the week of winning the championship for the third time in a row.
Tough luck.
I put these in our notes here, like having not known that, because like I said, it was announced today. So I was just like, yo, kudos to the Florida Everblades. And then today I look at my notes again, I'm like, oh my God, they're not even, like, this was their prize for three-peating. Like, you're going to lose your NHL.
Hey, good luck there, pal.
Yeah. So, you did it? I dare you to do it again.
Yeah. You're going to go for 4?
That was a fluke, guys. Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to highlight one guy on that team specifically.
Oh, let's hear it.
5'8" defenseman Nathan Staios, son of Steve, former NHLer, who over the season had 9 goals, 21 points, played pretty well, from what I understand, in the playoffs. But seeing that size as a defenseman in a professional hockey league was, to me,
current Ottawa Senators GM Steve Staios.
That's right. You're right. Good call, Dave.
Yeah. Is Mr. Nathan Staios here drafted? Like, is he in the Florida org?
He was undrafted, but is signed to the Florida organization. So he does have a contract. I believe there was one other player. I think it was defenseman Zach Ewens. He was a 4th-round pick in 2020. He also has an NHL contract at this point. Yeah.
Get that guy on a flight to Edmonton.
Yeah, right. If you can even get flights to Edmonton right now.
That's another thing too.
Maybe Nathan Staios there. He pulls a Zach Hyman, and he just ups and leaves from Florida to, I don't know, his home, Ottawa. I don't know. Home quotation marks. Yeah. Okay. I got a couple points here. PWHL, just kudos to Sarah Fillier. She was drafted 1st overall. There was like a lot of drama at the PWHL draft. I'd say let's get into it, but I don't think any of us have that knowledge to speak too crazy on it. Needless to say, like, it is interesting to pay attention to, and it's basically just the saga with the Minnesota former GM. We'll see what happens there. It's a developing story. Lots of crazy stuff going on there. Last thing here, Stanley Pup, guys. I don't know if any of you guys checked out the Stanley Pup this week, but I did as a owner of a little pup. He's not a pup. He's like a year old, but he's the size of a pup. And listen, there was a dog in this game that looks exactly like my dog. Shout out Connor McDoodle. Okay, this dude is fluffy as hell. That's my boy right there. He went toe to toe with Nikita Kucherov. Nikita Kucherov he really was a good example of the real life counterpart. I don't know. I thought this was really cool. It was like an 1.5-hour production. I watched it. I didn't get to watch it live. I watched it a couple of days after recorded it. It was like probably an 1.5 hours of product placement, but it was enjoyable product placement.
Yeah, you get to see dogs.
Yeah, I do. Like,
can't ask for more. Can't go wrong with dogs.
Yeah. The only thing I want to say is, imagine the type of production that these poor people had to go through. It's already so tough. It's so tough to train animals, like, doing anything, basically. Like, they are so tough to train, or for the most part. I think dogs are probably a little bit easier than other animals. But imagine like trying to put together like an hour and a half special with
Yeah.
only dogs as your main like
Listen, dude,
entertainment.
I'm telling you,
Holy.
they pulled it off. Like shout out
Good
to
for
the
them.
dogs and shout out to the people that were with them. Like it was solid content. I know Brandon, you got 1 or 2 cats.
I have one cat.
Okay,
yeah.
you got 1 cat. We need the Stanley. I don't know what you
The
call it.
Stanley Claus?
Stanley Meow.
Stanley
the-
Claus.
Okay,
Stanley
you know what?
Claus.
Brandon, there actually was cat content. I don't know if you caught
Really?
this.
No,
Yeah.
I did not see
Okay,
that.
so they had the dogs line up on the blue line for the national anthem, and the anthem was sang by a cat.
No.
It was like, yeah, it was literally.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
That
No,
does
I was-
seem like
incredible.
Yeah.
a more cat-centered talent.
Yeah, no, listen. There was content for everyone there, and it was for a good cause, right? I think they were all rescue dogs, and there was opportunities to adopt them, and like all of the different markets that were represented. I thought that was a really cool idea, and not just a cool idea, they executed it. So shout out to the NHL.
Yeah.
And some of the names were great. Like I just went through
Yeah.
some of them as well. Sergei Bobrovsky, I
Yeah.
love that. Joe Pavelski. Like there were some fantastic, clever names for some of these pups.
There should have been a Bark-Andre furry.
Oh,
where
yeah.
was
That would've been great.
That's
Right?
perfect.
Where the hell was that? Yeah,
Shout out Connor McDoodle.
yeah. McDoodle's a real one. Dave, where can you buy a Connor McDoodle jersey?
I don't know. Can you buy a Connor McDoodle jersey on the NHLshop.com? Maybe the NHLPauseshop.com
Oh,
or
look
something
at that!
like
Look at that!
Yeah. But if you want a Connor McDavid Edmonton Oilers jersey,
Yes.
quickly, maybe you want to get them on sale before they lose in the
Oh.
Cup Finals with like the Cup patch on them. Yeah, you could go to the NHLshop.com.
Shout out to NHL Shop. Shout out to Razor. Shout out to Fubo. Shout out to you guys. This was awesome to do in person, and we're gonna do it again soon.
Yeah.
So we'll see you
This is
there.
great.
Yeah.